Hey friends, it's Julie. Welcome back to Row & Co Farms. So I wanted to show you guys what I had on the menu for dinner tonight. Here we go, so you can see. I started cutting it already, but if you can imagine, this is it was in pieces. This is a piece of emu rump roast. Most people are probably like, why are you eating emu? But I am allergic to beef. Pork, all mammals, and so emu is a bird. It's in the poultry family, and we're going to use this emu roast, and we're going to be making a beef recipe. So basically a goulash recipe. My mother was German, and she always made a wonderful beef goulash, and I have not had beef goulash in over a year since I had my diagnosis of being allergic to beef. And so I'm going to use this emu rump roast and try to make a wonderful goulash out of it. So I just thought I would let you guys see what this looked like and you know, how it turns out, because I have never made it before. So we're going to see if it's good. But as you can see, its meat is really dark and red, so I can see why it's going to be very similar to beef. Now, I have eaten emu, but mostly in the ground form. So far, this is going to be my first attempt at making a different cut of meat other than just eating the ground meat. Now, the ground meat is excellent. It does taste very similar to beef, and once you season it up, you really can't hardly tell at all that it is not beef. So I am really, really excited to eat this. And you can really see, I want to show you guys, like the meat is very similar to beef in its texture and its grain. And so I'm really curious to see what it's like when you cook it out. I've been told not to cook it as long as I would a normal roast, but we're just gonna have to see. Usually I go a couple hours in my stew pot until everything is really tender. So we'll just kind of judge it by what it looks like. So I'm gonna just give these guys a little cut into maybe about 1-inch cubes or so. And then what I do is I heat some oil in my cast iron enameled skillet, like the one you see back there. We're gonna get it really hot, and we're gonna sear off the outside of these pieces just to get them browned. It's not to cook them completely, just to get them browned. And then we will get the rest of our ingredients ready, and then we'll make like a little bit of a sauce, and yeah, it's gonna be excellent. So yeah, if you want to tag along and see how I make an emu roast into a beef beef goulash recipe, stick around and check it out. I'm glad you guys are here. We're gonna have a good time tonight cooking dinner. So welcome to Row & Co Farms. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands and then get a couple things together, and then I'll be right back with you guys. So I still have some carrots from my winter harvest in my garden. So we're going to use those. I'm gonna link that harvest video up here if you guys wanna check that out. We got lots of goodies from that harvest. So I have about 8 carrots here, assorted colors, it doesn't matter. And then I have 1 large onion. You can use a couple medium ones or a couple small ones as well, but you're definitely gonna want that onion. And then I'm also gonna grab 5 or 6 cloves of garlic as well. So we're just gonna get these pieces chopped into little rings. Usually that's sufficient. I'm not gonna be peeling these carrots. These came straight out of my garden. I know where they came from. I have washed them multiple times. They are clean and they are in great shape, and I don't want to spend my time peeling them, so I'm not. We need as many microbes as we can get these days. Build our immune system up. So yeah, we'll get these all chopped into, little pieces. lose them already on the floor. A lot of people add actual bell peppers into their goulash. I do not. I use paprika. It's just not the recipe that my mom made and how she did it, and so I make her recipe. Now there is a ton of paprika, which is ground red pepper, so there is still red pepper in it. It's just not the, you know, big chunks of peppers like you do traditionally see. If you guys see, the tops of some of my carrots are green, and that is when they were growing in the winter time. This part got pushed up out of the soil, and in the weather it got a little bit discolored. So it was just from being exposed to colder temperatures and exposed to the air. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's still perfectly edible. I love this big long knife. I can cut 4 carrots at once. It's great. Saves me a little bit of time when I have to do a lot of vegetable chopping, which seems like it's always like that. And I think I got these at Sam's Club, actually. They have these really big knives in their kitchen, you know, section, I guess. So I like them. I have several a little bit smaller versions, but I really like this larger one. All right, some of these are just kind of big and chunky, so I'm trying to, you know, roughly chop them. This really, it doesn't have to be like anything perfect. This is a rustic beef stew. You know, this is what people were making when they didn't have a lot else. You know, you threw in your carrots and your onions and you chopped them up and you threw them in with your chunks of beef, or emu in this case. So there we go. We've got a nice big pile of carrots. I'm gonna slide those over. I'm gonna chop up my onion here really quick. So we'll save these pieces and we'll save our onion skins. We'll throw those in a freezer bag. I already have a freezer bag in my freezer full of onion peels. I'm also going to be taking all of my carrot ends, adding those into the bag. The next time that I make bone broth, those are the little pieces that I'm going to be using to flavor my broth. Then I'm not wasting anything. I'm just really trying to use every piece of the vegetable. And we don't end up eating that. That's literally just for flavor. It's going into the broth and it gets strained off later, and I end up throwing it out to the chickens and the chickens eat it, or it goes into the compost bin. So everything gets used and goes back into the ground. All right, so now that we've got our veg chopped, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll bring you guys around over to the stove, and we'll start by browning off our meat. Okay, so I said I was gonna use chicken fat, but I'm not. I have some avocado oil in here, so I'm gonna get my pan heated up here. And we'll get our avocado oil in here and get it hot. All right. And while that's heating up, I'm going to use a paper towel and kind of dry my meat off a little bit here, because if you're trying to sear meat, you don't want it to be wet. So the best thing you can do is dry it off some of this stuff, yeah, I'm gonna need to, let me get a bowl. I'm gonna have to kind of dry each piece a little bit so I can get all the way around it. Yeah, it is soggy feeling a little bit. Not soggy, that's the wrong word. It was frozen, and so as it's been thawing out, it's been releasing a lot of moisture, and so we just want to make sure that we're getting a lot of that off of there. So yeah, soggy's the wrong word. I don't want to make it sound like there's something wrong with the meat, because there's nothing wrong with the meat. It's fine. And actually, like, the more I'm seeing it and messing with it, it really, really does have that texture of beef. If you guys know what beef looks like and feels like, and it's definitely beefy in texture. It smells amazing. It smells like beef right now. Like, really. It smells amazing. Wow. I'm not going to disturb it just yet. I really want to get those pieces that are in the bottom right now to be nice and brown. Oh yeah, okay. Alright, yeah, they're starting to get nice and seared in there. We want to let them continue to do that. While that's going, I'm going to grab my paprika. We're going to need a good bit of paprika. I'm going to add a little more oil just to make sure nothing sticks. Emu does not have the same fat content as beef. It is much, much leaner, so it's not going to give off the same oil. So this process right here, when you do this, you're getting the outside nice and brown, caramelizing the outside. It kind of shrinks the meat up, which makes it tough initially, but once you cook it for several hours in the sauce, it's going to really break down those fibers in the meat, and it's going to let them be really tender. But you'll have that nice golden brown crust on the outside, which will be just really delicious. Guys, I'm going to make this taste like my mama's beef goulash. It's going to be so good. Alright, so I think that's enough that we have right there. We're not trying to cook it, and I'm going to take it off the heat and put it on a plate and set it aside for just a minute. Okay, now in our same pan, let's get our heat back on. Go ahead and get some more oil going in your pan. And we're going to get our vegetables in here and get them nice and sauteed. That's not working for me. Here we go. Oh, I'm losing carrots, guys, everywhere. There we go. I'm just going to get these like nice and sauteed in here. I'm going to add a little bit of thyme, because onions and thyme just taste beautiful together, and it's going to marry wonderfully with the emu. I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna say that's maybe half a teaspoon or so. And what else am I gonna add? Let's see, we're gonna add some salt and pepper. So anytime you want your spices and herbs to be more flavorful, you need to cook them in an oil first. So like we're sauteing them here with the oil rather than adding them into a liquid or a soup or a sauce after. You want to get those flavors toasting, and it makes them even more aromatic. Yeah, this smells so good right now. So in just a minute, we're going to add our paprika. And when I say we're going to add paprika, I mean we are going to add paprika. Like literally everything will be red. When we add the meat back in here, everything will be red. But it's going to be really good. So, I forgot to do my garlic. So you know what? We're just going to add some powdered garlic. That is completely fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, look at that. We got some nice gravy in there now. Nice juice. I'm going to add my paprika. Nope. I'm probably adding 4 tablespoons of paprika, maybe more by the time it's all done. It's a lot. Oh, but it already smells so good. Okay, let's go ahead and add our meat back in. And we're going to be using, of course, you're going to have to add a liquid in. Normally we would be adding in like a beef broth or some water to make this, beef stock turn into something, this beef broth turn into something. But I'm going to add a little bit of chicken broth because that's what I have available for me. And I'm going to be adding a little bit of this vegan broth base powder. This is going to help add a lot of that beefy flavor too. So I'm going to go grab what I need. So this is some broth I made the other day, and this fat on top, and this is gelled. Look, this thing is so gelled. The fat on top is like super yellow because I added some turmeric into it when I made it. So that's really interesting there. I'm actually going to add a little bit of that fat into here because, like I said, this has not got much fat in it. This will give us a nice rich broth. And look at that. That's my bone broth, guys. That's gelatin. That is amazing. You know what? Let's just dump all that in there. But I just want to talk about how amazing that bone broth is. If you guys make bone broth, you know, like, that's the jiggle you're looking for. You could also add a little bit of red wine in if you wanted to do that. And this will just dissolve down. You're never going to know that it was gelatin. It's going to turn into a liquid. It's already turning into a liquid in the bottom there. And I think we need to add, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, we're going to add more paprika. We're also going to add in, I add in crushed red pepper. because I like it a little bit spicy. So I'm gonna say that's probably half a teaspoon or so. You don't have to add any spices, but I would recommend you add a little bit of spice. It really helps to bring out the flavor in the meat. All right, we're also going to add that beef broth base that I was talking about. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. Oh yeah, this is really, really coming together. So what we're going to do now is, what I like to do is I like to take this Dutch oven and I'm going to put it into my oven. I've got it turned up to about 300, and that's going to let us cook it, you know, for the next few hours, and we'll continue to check on it and see how it's doing. Oh, it really smells so good, guys. I do need to add a little bit more salt. And I'm going to add a little more pepper too. So we'll let this go, and I'll probably cook up. You can make we can make noodles, rice, or some kind of potatoes with it. So I'll be putting one of those together this evening. This is going to need to cook for probably 2 hours or so. I'm going to get a lid on it, and then we'll put it into the oven. It's about 325 in there right now, so I think I need to turn it down a little bit. I'm gonna leave it cracked for a minute and just let some of the heat escape. I don't want to overcook it. All right, so we're gonna let that go in the oven, let it roast for probably 2 hours. I'm gonna check it in an hour and see how the meat's doing. And then we'll just kind of take it from there, but I'm going to give it probably 2 hours. I think that meat's going to need it. The way that it felt was so similar to beef that I think it's going to act very similar when it's cooking. So we'll just keep an eye on it, and I'll keep you guys posted. Okay, so it's been an hour since we put it in the oven. It looks really good. It smells really good. I just need to check on the tenderness of the meat itself. Probably going to be super hot. Yeah, I can tell it's already really still tough. It's going to need at least another hour in there, so we're going to put it back in. All right, guys, it's been a little over 2 hours, about 2.5 hours, and the meat definitely looks different now. So I'm going to show you a little bit closer what it looks like and how the meat is starting to break up, which is what we want. So if you see here, to get my hands in here. Oh, it's so hot. So I've got this piece out, and you can see where this is now just breaking apart. It looks really good. It's really hot right now. You can see it's steaming up the camera, but I think I'm gonna call this done. All right, I'm gonna give it a taste. Wow. I'm never gonna get to eat beef again, guys, but this is as close as I'm gonna get. And I would have to say, that's pretty darn good. I'll take it. All right, so I'm gonna get some potatoes or some noodles made to go with this. I think potatoes are sounding really good. So I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna have some dinner. So I added just a little bit of potato starch to thicken this up and make a little bit of a gravy, and that is really nice. I've got some mashed potatoes right there ready to go, and we are going to eat. All right, guys, time to try it. Let's see what it tastes like all together. It looks really yummy. Yum. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, if you have AlphaGal and you cannot eat beef and you want to try something that tastes like beef stew or pot roast or anything like that, you need to get some emu. It's so good. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave a link to the company that I got this from. I'm not affiliated with them, but they're just a really good company, and it's just a local farm in Tennessee, so check them out. But yeah, I'm gonna leave the recipe for this also down below. It's gonna take you over to my website, rocofarms.com, and I'm gonna leave all the goodies in there for you guys to try it yourself. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I can't wait to see you next time here at Row & Co Farms.